The CEO bought her for one night. Now he'll risk everything to keep her forever. She had never imagined her life would come down to a single night. A night she didn't choose but was forced to accept. The bills were stacked high, her family was drowning in debt, and she had exhausted every avenue of survival. So when the offer came, just one night with the wealthiest CEO in the city, in exchange for more money than she'd ever seen, she swallowed her pride and accepted. Her hands trembled the moment she stepped into the luxury suite, dressed in the borrowed black dress that didn't quite fit, her heart racing like thunder trapped inside a cage. She expected coldness, arrogance, and ownership. But what she didn't expect was the way his eyes locked onto hers as if searching for something lost in himself. He didn't touch her right away. Instead, he poured her a glass of wine, and his voice was low, gentle, laced with a pain he wasn't trying to hide. There was something broken in him, and it mirrored her own shattered pieces. They talked for hours before a single kiss. They spoke of regrets, of betrayals, of what it meant to survive while pretending to live. And when he finally did kiss her, it wasn't hunger. It was devastation. It was like he needed her not just physically, but to fill some hollow space inside his soul. That night wasn't filled with passion alone. It was filled with confessions, silences that spoke louder than words, and a closeness that neither of them could explain. She thought it would end there. She had done what she was paid for. But something changed. He didn't let her leave immediately. He asked her to stay, not for another night, but for breakfast. Then for a day. Then a week. She hesitated, confused, guarded, but he didn't push. He simply waited, as if he had all the time in the world. She had no idea he was already falling, not with obsession, but with reverence. To him, she wasn't someone he had bought. She was someone who had unknowingly bought his heart in return. Days turned into weeks, and what began as silence turned into conversations that mattered. She laughed again, something she hadn't done in years. He watched her closely, not as someone who possessed her, but as someone who feared he'd lose her. Every meal they shared, every long walk at night, every accidental brush of hands built a bond neither wanted to admit. But their world wasn't built for such peace. Not his, not hers. Behind closed doors, secrets were brewing. The board of directors whispered about his sudden withdrawal from important decisions. His assistant noticed how often his eyes drifted to his phone, waiting for messages that never came. He had started canceling meetings, missing deadlines. Unthinkable for a man who had built an empire with fire in his veins. All because his heart had chosen someone society would never accept for him. She too was spiraling. Her mother was asking where the sudden money came from. Her brother had suspicions. And her own guilt weighed heavily. She wasn't supposed to feel this way. He wasn't supposed to look at her like she was magic. He tried to leave once. Packed her bag and stood at the door. But he found her crying in the hallway, knees curled into her chest, whispering apologies for a decision she hadn't even made yet. He didn't speak, just wrapped his arms around her like the world outside didn't exist. That night they didn't make love. They simply held each other as if that was the only thing left they could do right. But happiness was borrowed time. Whispers started reaching his enemies. Photos were taken. Leaks made their way to the media. Headlines screamed betrayal. Investors panicked. Board members demanded answers. The empire he built was now shaking because of one woman. But he didn't care. For once, he had something to lose that actually mattered. And he was ready to lose everything for her. She begged him to let her go. She said she was poison. She cried in his office, swearing she never meant to ruin him. But he just stood still, watching her with eyes full of storms. "Letting you go," he finally said, "would destroy me faster than anything they could ever do." Yet the world is cruel, especially when love doesn't ask permission. A scandal was about to explode, one that would not only cost him his company but also drag her past into the spotlight. She had a secret, one even he didn't know, one that could ruin everything. And someone from her past was ready to use it. That night, as he sat by the fireplace, holding the necklace she had left behind after disappearing without a word, He knew something was wrong. She hadn't left out of guilt. She had left because someone had forced her to. He didn't know who. He didn't know why. But he swore to himself, no matter what it took, no matter what it cost, he would find her. And he would protect her, even if it meant burning his kingdom to the ground. The days without her passed like endless winters. He stared out from his glass-walled office, but the city meant nothing now. The empire he built brick by brick now stood as a mockery of success. She was gone and he had no idea where or why. Her phone was off, her address abandoned. Her last note, handwritten in trembling letters, simply said, "Don't look for me. I'm sorry." But he wasn't a man who gave up. Not in business. Not in love. He quietly hired a team to find her, cancelled board meetings, withdrew from press conferences. The media called it a meltdown. His enemies celebrated. But he didn't care about any of that. All he knew was that something was terribly wrong. She wouldn't have left without a reason. Not after the way she cried in his arms. Not after the night she told him, in whispers between kisses, that she felt safe with him for the first time in years. Days turned into weeks. Then finally a trace. A photo of her, alone, sitting on a hospital bench. He flew across the country in a heartbeat. The moment he saw her again, she looked different. Ill. Thinner. Hollowed by pain. But her eyes still carried that same spark, even through the tears. He rushed to her but she backed away. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "You're risking everything." "You are everything," he replied without hesitation. And then the truth fell like a storm. She was pregnant. With his child. But that wasn't all. She was being blackmailed by someone from her past. An ex who had abused her for years. The same man who had threatened to kill her if she didn't leave the CEO quietly. He had found out about the one-night arrangement. He had photos, messages. And now he was demanding millions in silence, or he'd destroy everything. Her reputation, the CEO's empire, even threatened the unborn child's future. She had run to protect him. But he wasn't the kind of man to be protected. He was the kind who protected. He took her hand, trembling as it was, and whispered, "No more running. Not from me. Not from anyone." Together they returned, quietly. She stayed hidden but he moved fast. Not with fear but with fury. He called his legal team. Hired investigators. Found the ex's location. And without violence, he destroyed him. Legally, ruthlessly, completely. The man was exposed for a string of frauds, abuse reports, and blackmail attempts. Police took him. The media turned against him instead. For the first time she breathed without fear. But the battle wasn't over. His company board now had enough to push him out. The scandal, though cleared legally, had affected shares. Stockholders panicked. His seat as CEO was up for vote. He had two options: deny the affair and claim innocence, or accept it publicly and lose everything. He walked into that meeting with calm silence, then did the unthinkable. He confessed everything. He told them how he had fallen in love with someone society deemed unacceptable, how he had broken his own walls for her, how his success meant nothing without her by his side, and how he'd choose her again, even if it cost him every title, every dollar, every deal. Silence filled the room. The vote passed. He was removed. But he walked out with peace in his eyes. For the first time he felt free. Not bound by reputation, not trapped by greed. He returned home to her. She cried in his arms when he told her. "You lost everything," she whispered. "No," he said, kissing her forehead. "I finally found what matters." They started over in a quieter city. He opened a small tech company. She worked with abused women, counseling others with the strength she once didn't know she had. Their child was born healthy, with the same eyes that once stopped him in a luxury suite. Years passed, but the fire never faded. People still asked him if he regretted giving up his empire. He'd smile and reply, "I didn't lose my empire. I just stopped pretending the wrong things made me powerful. The final twist wasn't a betrayal. It was the realization that sometimes, love isn't found in grand gestures, but in sacrifices no one sees. In battles fought in silence. In risking everything. Just to keep someone forever.